My family must think I'm insane. Leaving everything behind, packing up in the middle of the night, driving halfway across the country just because some forgotten old ranch felt right to me. They begged me not to go, told me cheap land always comes with strings attached, told me nobody sells 20 acres for the price of a used car unless something's wrong. But when I saw the listing, the photos, the woods, the price, something in my chest tightened. It felt like the place was waiting for me. So I ignored the warnings, ignored the unease, ignored the way my stomach twisted as I pulled into the long dirt driveway. The first thing that hit me wasn't the silence. It was the smell, a sour, metallic stench drifting from the tree line like wet fur, rusty metal, and something dead that had been sitting out too long. It clung to the air, thick and heavy, as if the land itself was rotting from the inside. I told myself it was an animal, or the coop, or the woods, something normal, something explainable. But as I stepped inside the house, as the door creaked shut behind me, that's when I saw it. The thing that should have made me turn around. The thing that should have sent me running home. A yellowed sheet of paper waiting on the kitchen table. The rules, the warning, the list that told me everything I needed to know about this place, and the thing watching it. At the top, written in rough black marker, rules you must follow if you want to live here. That should have been the moment I got back in my truck. But the place was cheap, too cheap, and I needed somewhere to stay. So, like an idiot, I picked up the list. The rules, slow, ominous reading. Rule 1. After sunset, do not go outside. Do not look out the windows. It watches through the glass. Rule 2. Close and lock every door by 10 p.m. If you hear knocking after this, do not answer. Rule 3. If you hear scratching on the roof, stay still. It loses interest if you don't move. Rule 4. If you hear your name whispered outside, plug your ears. It's not a person. Rule 5. Do not under any circumstances let it see you first. Underlined 3 times. I laughed out loud reading that one. I shouldn't have. Sunset came fast. The ranch sat deeper in the wilderness than I expected. The house creaked. The trees swayed like something was weaving through them. Around 9:30, I locked the doors and covered all the windows. Rule 2, check. By 10, the wind had died. Not slowed, just died. Complete silence. Then it began. Asterisk, asterisk, scratch. 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 Asterisk, asterisk. Rule 3. Footsteps on the roof. Slow, dragging. As if something tall struggled to bend low enough to crawl on top. I stayed perfectly still on the couch. Barely breathed. After 3 agonizing minutes, the sound stopped. Rule 3. Check. Then, a whisper at the window. My name. My exact voice. Soft, pleading. Wrong. Rule 4. I shoved my fingers into my ears and hummed. The whisper turned into a low growl. Then, silence. Rule 4. Check. For a moment, I felt proud. Stupid, but proud. I got up and walked to the kitchen. The brief sense of security I felt was shattered. Moonlight. A beam of moonlight shone across the kitchen floor. I felt an ache in my stomach as my body went limp. I couldn't resist as my eyes glanced towards the moonlight through the thin pane glass. And standing there, inches from the glass, was a face. Not human. Not animal. Pale. Too long. Eyes reflecting light like a cat. And as I stared, frozen, it tilted its head. Slowly. Like it was curious. And then, I did the one thing I should never have done. I made eye contact. It saw me first. It swiftly jolted from my vision. The sound of rapid, powerful footsteps circled the house. It stopped almost instantaneously at the front door. Boom. The front door shook. Something hit it hard. Boom. The frame cracked. Rule 2 said not to answer the door. It didn't say anything about it breaking in. After each crash, I could hear the wood splintering off the door. The entire frame shook. Wood splintered. Hinges bent. Dust fell from the ceiling. And then the door gave way. A massive shape crawled through the opening, hunched and twisted. Long limbs. 2 long fingers. Its ribs like a cage trying to burst free. Steam erupted from its breath in the cold air. It just scowled a deep, animalistic curl of the lips, showing jagged, uneven teeth. Like it was angry, I was alive. Like it was offended, I was here. The moment its eyes locked onto me, it rushed forward. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I stepped into its charge and threw a right hook straight into its jaw. A mistake. Its skull didn't move the way a human's would. It barely recoiled, its head twitching sideways like an irritated dog. Then it reacted. Its claws raked across my arm, shredding through skin, fat, and muscle in one swipe. I felt the tip scrape bone. Warm blood poured instantly. My hand went numb. The pain hit a second later and nearly dropped me. I staggered back. It was too strong, too fast. I turned to flee Daunt to the basement, my foot swiping off the pool off my own blood down. I fell forward through the basement doorway, tumbling. Down the basement stairs, smacking into each wooden edge all the way down. My body folded and rolled, pain exploding with every hit. I crashed into the concrete at the bottom, breath knocked out of me. My arm throbbed. Blood dripped from my elbow in thick strings. But Dad didn't raise a quitter. I forced myself up just as the creature came tumbling down after me, claws snapping at the air, limbs smacking against the walls, snarling in pure feral rage. I grabbed the nearest object, a paint can, and hurled it. It cracked against its skull with a wet thunk, staggering it for a second. I used that second. I grabbed anything I could reach. A hammer. A broken pipe. A rusted wrench. I swung wildly, each strike landing with bone-jarring impact, smashing into its ribs, arms, shoulders, anything that moved. The creature thrashed, swiping at me with blind fury. Its claws shredded shelves, ripping tools off hooks, gouging trenches into the concrete floor. My vision blurred. Blood loss hit fast. My legs trembled. I needed to finish this fast, or I'd bleed out on the basement floor. It lunged again. I dodged by accident more than skill, crashing into a pile of old furniture. My hand landed on a fire poker. Long, metal, sharp at the end. When it leapt at me, jaws wide, I drove the poker straight into its eye. The effect was instant. The creature jolted back with a violent, guttural bellow, louder than anything I'd ever heard, raw animal pain blasting through the room. It writhed on the ground, ripping at the poker, kicking, smashing into walls. I backed away on my hands and knees, crawling across the cold concrete, trying to put as much distance as I could between me and the creature tearing the fire poker out of its shattered eye socket. My arm was pouring blood. My vision pulsed. The basement floor felt like it was tilting under me. I kept crawling backward, until my hand dragged across something jagged. A line of razor-sharp teeth tore into my palm, slicing deep and fast. I jerked my hand up on instinct, blood dripping freely. Only then did I see what I'd crawled into. A chainsaw, lying half under a tarp. Dusty, half rusted. Its cutting chain exposed just enough to rip me open when I touched it. I grabbed it with my good hand, pulling it toward me, smearing the handle red as I did. Behind me, the creature was recovering. Its breathing shifted heavier, deeper, wet, and furious. It found its footing again, claws tapping lightly against the concrete as it turned toward me. I planted the chainsaw against my leg, wrapped my bleeding fingers around the starter cord, and pulled. Nothing. I pulled again, harder. Still nothing. The creature crouched low, muscles tightening, preparing to pounce. It had one ruined eye socket and one good eye full of feral hatred, locked straight onto me. My hand shook violently from blood loss. My arm was nearly useless. My fear was replaced with anger as I locked eyes with the creature determined to make it pay. I grabbed the cord again one last chance and dragged it back with every ounce of strength I had left. The engine sputtered, caught, then finally roared awake. The creature lunged, and I swung. The chainsaw teeth chewed into its arm, and the limb came off in a spray of black blood, hitting the ground with a wet slap. The creature let out a scream I felt in my bones. Not a monster scream. Not a supernatural howl. A real animal cry. Pain, rage, shock. It stumbled backward, thrashing, smashing into shelves and pipes. I covered my ears. My vision pulsed. The basement floor felt like it was tilting under me. Stood there shaking, covered in blood, half mine, half its, the chainsaw vibrating weakly in my hands. The basement was a ruin of splintered wood, bent metal, and long claw marks carved into the stairs where the creature had fled into the night. My arm was torn open to the bone. My hand was shredded from the chainsaw teeth. Everything hurt. Everything throbbed. Determined to survive, I wrapped my arm with whatever cloth I could find, staggered up the stairs, climbed into my truck, and started driving. The world kept tilting sideways. Every blink was slower than the last. I could feel myself fading. I don't remember most of the road. Just white lines. Just headlights. Just the pounding of my pulse in my ears and the copper taste of blood on my tongue. By the time I reached the hospital parking lot, I could barely breathe. I stumbled inside, collapsing onto the tile, babbling something about an animal attack before everything finally went dark. They told me later I lost a dangerous amount of blood. That I was lucky to even make it there. That another hour and I wouldn't have. But the whole time I lay in that bed, the whole time they stitched my arm and wrapped my hand, I kept seeing one moment replay over and over again. The creature's face. Specifically, the last 2 seconds before it fled. For a brief, flickering moment, I saw fear in its eyes. Not instinct. Not surprise. Fear. A week later, bandages wrapped tight and pain meds rattling in my pocket, I didn't drive home. I drove back to the ranch. Back to the woods. Back to the house with the broken front door. Back to the place where everything started. I parked the truck, stepped out, and climbed onto the porch, a shotgun and chainsaw at the ready, waiting for it, hoping it matured.